Hi, I'm Brandi Schonberg, and I am submitting this video as an interview for the Masters of Library Science with Sam Houston State University. I'm going to go through my answers to the questions without saying question one, question two. I'm just going to answer and babble. I have been a classroom teacher for 15 years. I think it's been a crazy journey. I was a healthcare administrator prior to that and a professional musician. I have a lot of interests, but in the classroom for 15 years, I'm on my 16th, and I have been an instructional coach for 3 of those years. I am in my 4th year as an instructional coach in science. Why do I want to be a school librarian? Well, the library was a safe space for me for ever since I could go to a library, school or private, anywhere. I don't know why I have taken the long road to becoming a librarian, but here I am. My librarian friends have been trying to drag me kicking and screaming into it, and I didn't see the light. But now I feel like I have the mental space to do that. A couple of years ago, my husband passed away. My kids are now off at college. My brain has made the space to be able to make this leap. I think it's a natural leap for me. I am an author. I have 2 books out, a third one about to be out, and I love the reading. I love books. I love libraries, and it's a natural progression, I think, for me in education. So yeah, I feel like I have the mental space. I have the time, and I'm ready to move into the next phase and be, I think, where I really have always wanted to be. I just now realized it. What do I believe are the most important traits, characteristics of a school librarian? So I feel like librarians are not gatekeepers, but they're guides. School librarians in particular have an opportunity to open doors to innumerable worlds that every child that walks through those doors has that opportunity to visit places they never thought they could. Librarians should be patient. They need to become investigators. They need to try to unlock what might flip that reading switch for the reluctant reader. They really need to be organized. I'm envious of every librarian I've ever met. I see how organized they are, and they should never forget that they are still teachers. But every discipline is theirs. They're not science teachers, math teachers, reading teachers, social studies teachers. Every discipline is theirs. And they might be the only teacher in the room with like multi-dimensional access, if you think about it. We can do magic over here. We can look at space over here. It's just, the sky's the limit, literally. The next question is, what are important points? I lied, I'm skipping. How do I demonstrate my ability to be understanding, respectful, and inclusive of diverse populations? Well, this hits home. I currently teach a science class comprised of students from the Middle East, from here in the United States, from Africa, and some of those students have 0 school experience and little to no English. We showed a student how to hold scissors, and I teach 8th grade, how to hold scissors the other day. I have students who are GT and who have been in the United States since kindergarten. They speak perfect English, and I have students that speak no English. So I think librarians need to be patient and try to understand everybody's needs. I have to differentiate daily. I have to be culturally sensitive. And just 2 days ago, I had an impromptu kinesthetic lesson where students had to hold hands and demonstrate the wave, like, you do the wave. And I had to understand that in a classroom full of students from different places, I have some Afghan boys that cannot touch girls. They can't hold their hand. And that didn't snap until a boy who felt comfortable shared that with me. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So we did some moving around. We did some don't hold hands, just stand next to each other. So that's a simplistic example, but it's those little things that can make or break a lesson. And you have to be able to look at even something as simple as I can't hold her hand or I can't touch her arm. Those are some of the cultural differences that we don't routinely think about. So that's definitely something that I've had to do, and actually just literally on Friday. What are important points for students to remember when doing research? Students should use more than one or two sources, and their sources should be from reputable entities. They need to compare their data and information and be sure they can understand and explain any discrepancies in that. And as I tell my students all the time, Wikipedia, Google, the blurb that Google gives you, those are not research. They also need to remember to cite their sources and make sure they cite them every time they reference them. The next question, what are some of the ways I assess learning? I assess learning through both formative and summative assessment. I enjoy project-based learning, and I like using evaluation through rubrics as an assessment tool. I really love student debate and discussion as a way to assess a student's understanding of a topic, being able to defend and see flaws in other people's discussions about a topic. That tells you a lot about what they know and the depth that they understand it. And honestly, nothing beats a good one-on-one conversation with your kiddos. One-on-one will let you know a lot. Just talking about it, it takes the pressure off of assessment and lets them really show you what they're thinking. Example of how I'd use technology to create authentic learning. Technology is so vast right now with AI and everything else. Web quests, I think, are good. It's something I think we've used for a long time, and there's different types of web quests, different ways you can work that. It lets students discover topics on their own. Also, I had such a great experience when I was an instructional coach in middle school. We did the day of coding, or that's not what it's called anymore, but coding for kids. It's great because you can give them just a little bit and they can take it and run with it, and that is super cool. And that is them learning on their own, using a little piece of information and building on it on their own. So that's something that's really cool. Describe what my attitude toward reading is. Okay, so as a science teacher, I kept a library in my classroom. Small, but I don't know why, but I've always felt like I was personally responsible for prescribing books to kids that said they didn't like to read. They would say, I don't like to read, and I'm like, I don't believe that. I just don't think you found the right book. So speaking of the investigating that I talked about earlier, I would prod and probe and see if I could figure out what they might be interested in. And sometimes I hit and it worked. But I believe every kid can learn to love reading, but reading doesn't have to be novels. Read anything. That's what I've always told my own children. Read a cereal box, a comic book, a graphic novel. Words are words. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a novel. You're reading words. You're getting a story. I love it. I also believe that students need to have good reading modeled, especially for kiddos that weren't read to as small children in their home. If they've never heard somebody tell a really good story or read a story out loud, it's hard for them to see the value in it. So modeling that reading is super important. I'm a voracious reader, and I've been since I was a little girl, and I tried very hard to instill that in my own children, and I even do read alouds in my science classroom in 8th grade, and they love it. So that's kind of my attitude on it. Do I read for pleasure? There's only one of my many bookshelves. I read all the time. Most often I read fantasy, science fiction. I vacillate between adult and young adult on both of those genres, and I also enjoy nonfiction books particularly about space. I read more than just science fiction and fantasy. I will read paranormal. I do read some romance, but I read a little bit of everything, if I'm being honest. So let's see. Sorry, someone came to our door. How do I stay current in my content area? I do read nonfiction about the universe, about space. I like geology as well. And I subscribe to several podcasts covering science discoveries, so I like to listen to science podcasts. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm a big Crash Course science nerd. Phil Plait is like my personal hero. So, yeah, I do read some of that nonfiction. I do listen to podcasts. I do try to stay on top of new discoveries. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Like I said, I am also an author. I attend book events on a regular basis. I actually just got back from Houston at a Right Space Houston fantasy book ball event, and I network with authors, both young adult and adults. I try to stay on top of book trends and things that are happening in the publishing world. So that's another side of me that's not a question, but I did want to share that. So I am sure that this was an incredibly awkward thing to listen to, and I'm so sorry about that. But if you have any other questions, please let me know. Please email me, and I am so excited to start this journey. I can't tell you how excited I was when I saw the email about the program and the fact that it's at Sam Houston State where my own children are going. They're already Bearcats. We're a Bearcat family now, so hopefully I can join them as a student with Sam Houston. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you.